CTAC, like a video.
Let's try the roll call again.
Okay,
And
great.
that was unfortunate.
That's right, they missed the quote.
We don't have to go over it. What's his name, Jeffrey Cooper?
That's right, because the captioner didn't hear it at all. So roll call, Henry Sharpenberg,
Still here.
Matthew Rowe.
Here.
Tamara Banks. Here. Josh Brock. Josh Brock has stepped down and emailed us that he's decided to resign to devote the time spent on CTAC matters to other pursuits. He's learned a great deal from his time with CTAC and wishes everyone all the best in the future. Morgan Birch. Mr. Birch is out of town on business. John Castellarin.
Here.
Justin Chenault. Jacob Clay. Jacob is on excused military absence with Marine Reserve duty annual training. Micah Cunningham. Tara Durant.
Present.
Patricia Encarnacion. Rupert Farley.
Here.
Glenn Goldsmith. Glenn, are you with us remotely? All right. Larry Gross. Jerron Hayes. And Jerron, are you with us remotely? Neil Holleran.
Here.
Michael Hoyt. Travis King. Nicholas Kwatnowski.
Here.
David McLaughlin.
Here.
Ken Pogue. James Powell.
Here.
Dustin Savage.
Here.
David Swan. Mr. Swan regretted he's not able to join us this evening. Rodney Thomas. Rodney, are you with us remotely?
I am here.
Great. Terrific. And that concludes the roll call. Did I miss any CTAC members in the roll call? We do have a guest this evening, Jennifer Faulkner. Thank you for joining us tonight. You do have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So item number 3, the agenda is depicted in front of you. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Move approval of the agenda.
Mr. Farley has moved. Who seconded? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? 2 abstentions. Okay.
Mr. Chair, just our apologies for the screen as well. We have ordered a brand new large format screen for the room and the projector because folks were complaining the television screen was starting to get in trouble and it was not clear enough on the back of the room to see. The new screen and projector arrived, they put up the projector, but unfortunately, if you see that big brown box out there, that's the screen, it's broken. It arrived damaged. So they've ordered a new replacement screen, and so this is a very temporary solution, just to have the paper up there so you can see, but we apologize for the poor quality. The new one will be up by the time.
We appreciate the resourcefulness.
Okay. For review of the May 16th Policy Committee meeting.
How about the minutes of May 11th?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. The minutes were provided to you online. I don't think there are copies here. Does anybody have any corrections, additions, or deletions to the minutes?
Approval of the minutes.
Okay, Rupert Farley has approved. Second. Okay, second. Discussion. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, abstention? Okay, minutes are approved. Okay, Policy Committee meeting review.
All right, I'll go quickly through that. And Coley, I don't think there's a need necessarily to go through that agenda. We had a presentation at the Policy Committee connecting the Capital Region from Baltimore to Richmond from the Greater Washington Partnership. And it was also a very important meeting for the Smart Scale Round 5. In one of our earlier meetings, we talked about Smart Scale being a biannual, every 2 years, localities, and FAMPO and the George Washington Regional Commission put projects in to be scored for consideration of VDOT funding. And so it was a presentation to the Policy Committee on the various projects that are moving forward. And our staff member, Carrie Barber, works really hard to basically, FAMPO is the clearinghouse to make sure all the applications meet the basic screening criteria so that they can then be judged among the others in the Commonwealth by the Commonwealth Transportation Board. So a very important role FAMPO plays on funding projects. We had some resolutions regarding that smart scale project list, as well as funding adjustments of the various programs to very efficiently. I want to credit Mr. Allis and our staff, Jordan Chandler, that make sure, along with your technical advisory committee, that all the money is in the right spot for projects to spend it down quickly and not have what I consider stale funds that are given to the Commonwealth and not spent. So quite a job to make sure all the pennies are in the right slots. We also authorized a contract with a firm called Cambridge Systematics to help us with an upcoming freight summit that Mr. Allis has initiated and staff is working on to try to address the freight delays and congestion associated with freight through not only the FAMPO jurisdictions, but also Caroline and King George counties. Our annual Unified Planning Work Program was presented, and there was an executive committee meeting held of the Policy Committee May 23rd to approve that, and that is the work plan for FAMPO staff for the upcoming fiscal year. We had some basically housekeeping amendments to the Transportation Improvement Program funding, and also a letter of support for a grant Spotsylvania County is putting in called the RAISE, R-A-I-S-E. It's a bundle of projects to be funded through the Infrastructure Act that will address transit as well as road and pedestrian impacts of the new VA center at Massaponax. So quite an ambitious bundle of projects that address all modes of access as relates to the VA center, including a transit to the VRE station and so forth. That concludes my presentation of Policy Committee, sir.
Okay. Under old business, the question was raised at the last meeting. We sent a letter in November to Caroline County.
Public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll get this straight.
Yeah.
Are there any comments from the public?
I would like, Jane Leeds, are you on the phone with us currently? Jane has communicated with Coley and myself that there are links to the transportation systems in San Diego where she lived and used those. And so Coley and I will be sending links. You all, after your last meeting, received a nice email letter that Ms. Leeds provided us.
And there's some links in there.
Yeah, and we'll follow up to make sure everyone gets those links.
Okay, any other comments from the public? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and close that out. Let's go to old business and the November 2821 letter to Caroline County. Question was raised last time about what is the status of that, and do we have any kind of update from Caroline County?
Well, we provided the letter that was sent, and I also had the opportunity to meet with our Transportation Coalition team and did some research with regard to Caroline County's budget documents I found online, as well as research with regard to transportation services. When I read the correspondence that led to the letter, there were individual citizens that said, you know, hey, it'd be great for me to be able to get to the Family Dollar or the Dollar General store for my home. So we prepared a research document and provided it to the Transportation Coalition with regard to taxi service that is available in Caroline. I also found a study that was done to determine the most efficient Fred route in Caroline that would provide access to the Pennsylvania VRE station. And FAMPO staff did that about a year ago. It's a really nice study as far as ridership and so forth. And we determined that Caroline County, although their published budget document did have funding for that VRE, that Fred route, that the Fred transit folks told us, indeed, there is no transit in the county. So although the budget document indicated about $100,000 for Fred transit, that route has not been implemented by the county. So I shared with the Transportation Coalition that it is not really FAMPO's role to get Caroline County to establish a route and spend that $100,000. So I'm not sure what we want to do at this point. Caroline has not replied to your letter. They have not implemented the transit route. And at this point, I don't really believe there's any action that FAMPO staff is able to take to encourage the county to establish a transit.
I would think that's something we can do, and encourage folks, or at least find out what they propose to do, or give them some options. Would anybody disagree with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Please.
The time that document was, and as we know, that document has not been updated. It's now 2022, and that document has not been updated. So most of that information is outdated. There was a route in Caroline County. The problem with the ridership, as you have my back to you, the problem with the ridership, it did not reach the people. It was a small route. It did not really go anywhere. So the people that wanted to use it had to live close by it. And the people that needed to use it, it was inaccessible because, again, it was outside that 3/4 mile. So the reason why I went to Caroline to get the information is those people need transportation. They need to get to work. They need to get to doctor's appointments. If I may, when is the next time Caroline County is updating the document? Because that information is old. So if there was $100,000 there, it was already spent at the time of the document. Not that I'm pushing for transportation in Caroline County. I'm pushing for equity in Caroline County. The people need to get to work. The people need to get to the grocery store. The people need to get to the doctor's appointment. How can they do that if they're on a fixed income? Nobody can afford cabs right now. I know to get in a cab, I think it costs like $6 or $7. So if you have somebody making $10 an hour, where are they going to go? I'm going to keep pushing for public transportation in Caroline County. The people need to get around. And for us that are lucky enough to drive, I mean, now you got to take out a second mortgage to buy gas. So I'm asking for FAMPO, GWRC, whoever, to back me on this. I'm going to go to Caroline County, and I'm going to ask, what can we do about getting transportation, at least a jitney that actually goes to where the people are, the people's needs. Or, as it says in our bylaws, we can go to Caroline County and start talking to the people there and finding out what can we do to establish a more effective job. What can we do to get the county to buy in? Because, again, if you do not have a transportation need and you have your own vehicle, public transportation means nothing to you because you can get in your car. They don't think about when they get older, what's going to happen then. When you can no longer drive, you're going to be calling for the option.
Do we know for a fact if there is money, or has it been expended?
I'm not sure, but I would like to go talk to somebody. So if you know who's in charge of that, I'd be more than happy to meet with them.
Well, I don't see anything wrong with us going down there as public advocates. We don't have money, we don't have authority, but we can at least engage and tell them what's available. Anybody have a problem with that?
How long has it been since they had Fred service? It's been a few years. Yeah.
I want to say it's almost, Ms. Fulton probably can help me with this one. I think it was almost 5 years, because
They ceased it
Okay.
prior to COVID, because it came to, I live in Carolina, and it used to come to, where I live in Lake Landor. But it was, the ridership was so low, it was stopped
I remember,
pre-COVID.
I remember the route too. It was almost, I think it wasn't every day. It was like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday route. And it was like a loop route that hit Bowling Green and Ladysmith and then would come back up to Fredericksburg. But that's all it was. It was something where you can once in a while use it to get groceries. It wasn't something that people could use to commute.
Would you like to go down to, I'm sorry.
Would it be helpful to have the provider, i.e. Fred, address the CTAC at our next meeting on this issue and say what the history was and the complications and that sort of thing?
Actually, I'd like to do both, if that's all right. Go down and do a lay of the land and a sensing of, once we find out if there is money, what are their druthers? Is there any movement from them? And then get Fred in here, if we can, and put what you've discovered with what Fred knows together and see if we can make some recommendations to them.
Okay, so who would I be talking to?
You would probably want to go to the transportation planner, but I can reach out to the county staff and find out who that is.
I can do that.
I would encourage you to get the other important stakeholders involved, the electeds that represent that region, the state senator and their local delegates.
Well, if you can send me over this, I'll be more than happy to reach
I'm
out.
happy to.
Because from what I understand, it was the county itself that said it wasn't profitable. If anybody knows public transportation is not meant to be profitable. The entities that are associated with transit are meant to be profitable, economic growth. If people can get on the bus and get to work or get to shopping, that grows economics in the area. We have buildings popping up all over the place, but people can't get there.
Okay, so I think the first shot is go talk to the officials, the administration, see what they've got planned, if anything, what their knowledge base is. Come on back, we'll compare it with what Fred has the capability to do or is planning to do. And then on the basis of that, then we can expand our advocacy to some other folks and get opinions as to what kind of routes do you need. Mr. Farley.
Are we sure this is a transportation problem? The more I listen to this, the more it sounds to me like it's an affordable housing problem.
Don't know. It could be.
I think we shouldn't go in there assuming that it should be solved by transportation policies.
No, I think this is, yeah.
Maybe it should be solved by affordable housing policies.
Now, this is just fact-finding. This is going down, getting the lay of the land, and not advocating yet for any particular solution, but I don't know enough about what's going on in Caroline County, and so we need to do some research and then discuss potential courses of action going forward. So.
Who's our representative here from Carolina?
I'm sorry?
Who's our representative here from Carolina?
AWOL, I believe.
Justin Chenault is not able to attend, is Caroline County rep, as well as Michael Hoyt and Ken Pogue.
I'll see if I can link up one of those with you and do that as a joint, and it's strictly fact-finding. We're not making any assumptions. We just like to know what are we dealing with in order to address this issue. Okay? Anybody have any issue with that? All righty. Any other questions about that letter? Okay, update on the proposed outer connector. On the 31st of May, as you probably remember, the western proposed outer connector goes from Stafford into Culpeper, into Orange, and then connects in the vicinity of Route 3 and 20, Highway 20. So I went to the two staffs in Orange and Culpeper County on 31st of May. I spoke in Culpeper with the county executive and his chief planner, Mr. Eckerson, who's the county executive, and Mr. Samuelson, who's the head of their planning staff. Showed them what was being considered. They looked at it, and to be very honest, I got a lukewarm reception initially because I believe they want to place the priority of their transportation on the 2915 corridor, and they're frustrated that they don't have a dedicated pot of money for that. Welcome to the real world. But they didn't shut off discussion. They just said they'll start looking at that through their public works committees. Then I went to, Orange County, met with the entire planning staff, Ms. Carrie Ragland and her fellow planners, they were very enthusiastic, and they let me in on a little secret, that I guess is not a secret anymore. There is a 3,400 acre mixed use rezoning going on just north of the Route 3 Highway 20 intersection in Orange County. And they saw this as a great asset to them. They're trying to figure out how best to incorporate it into their planning, and they would like to reach out to their equivalent in FAMPO. I guess it's the Rappahannock planning.
Rappahannock.
Yeah, so more to follow on that. Pretty strong reception. Now, if Culpeper is not willing to participate, and at this point in time I don't know, then we would have to look for a crossing further to the east, potentially on the east side of the confluence of the Rapidan and the Rappahannock. And I'm going to go reach out to the Spotsylvania planners and find out what they think about that. So that's the western proposed route. On the eastern proposed route, I'm going to go to the Stafford County Planning Commission sometime in July and discuss the proposal in a little bit more detail with them. And if anybody would like to attend, I'll get the exact date of when that occurs. It's generally in the evening, starting about 7 o'clock. You're more than willing to come to that. Matt Rowe has already indicated that, and he'll talk about his proposal later, but he's refined his Plantation Drive connection, and this will be a great opportunity for him to go and talk to them about the same thing. But county staff is interested about both of these things. On the King George component, I haven't talked to them yet. I'll get an appointment with King George, let anybody know who would like to attend, and you're welcome. Oh, only 2 of us. 3 will have to declare a meeting. So anybody else would like to attend, we'll coordinate that, and you'll be welcome to go with it. Now, talking with Orange and Culpeper, I showed them the justification and the criteria for what they're calling the mega funding. There's a $5 billion pot of money in one of the infrastructure bills, I don't know which one, that is available, and it fits the criteria very well for the kind of thing we're trying to do either to the east or to the west. Involves rural areas, involves metropolitan planning organizations, it has utility for a lot of folks, and so this would be an excellent candidate. Now, the money is there until expended. If you were listening in to the policy committee meeting last time, Washington, D.C. is looking to get a chunk of that to put in another bridge over the Potomac and 2 additional rail lines. Previously, there was a discussion of 1, they want to put in 2 over the Potomac, and they're trying to use that funding stream also. So if everything were to continue to move along and we could get an application in early enough, that would be, other people's money, which is a good thing, not if you're a taxpayer, but it doesn't come out of the FAMPO allocation for the region. So more to follow on that. I'll let the staff here know what meetings are scheduled, and again, as long as we don't bust FOIA limitations or we all sit separate in these various meetings, you're welcome to attend if you would like. Any questions of me for the current status of the proposed outer connector eastern and western components? Okay.
Next item is the vision survey. Coley, did you have a presentation or?
Sure.
Oh, great.
So you all received a vision survey from us. Thank you to everyone who participated. These findings will go into creating a FAMPO vision statement. So thank you very much for your participation. So there were 97 surveys sent out, 6 of them to FAMPO staff members and 91 to committee members and alternates like you all. So the policy committee, the technical advisory committee, CTAC, and DTAC, the pedestrian and bicycle advisory committee. 63 surveys were completed, and you all know what the questions were completed. And we'll go through those questions now. So why FAMPO exists? So these, anything that you see with this type of table just takes out key words and phrases that you all used in your questions and ranks them, or not ranks them, but it compiled everybody's responses into this graph. So rural localities were more, more than just two people said that FAMPO exists for rural localities, which is interesting given the Caroline County, So, and then regional collaboration, communication between the jurisdictions, and transportation planning were our largest keywords for why FAMPO exists. And then if we had a vision statement, what would the region look like after, in a few years, in the future? So we have more funding was the least amount. Multimodal transportation would be the most that everyone wants, as well as transit-oriented development. So transit centered around, or development centered around transit. We got less congestion over here. Then, what is the most important solution that FAMPO should be working on? Well, let's see, transportation. You all said transportation, that's so great. We're very excited that you want to work on transportation.
She's being ironic, that's wrong.
Right. What is the second most important solution that FAMPO should be working on? So this just compiles some of the keywords that a lot of you suggested. It doesn't rank them at all or anything. So we have accessibility for all, bike and pedestrian improvements, regional transportation authority, transportation-oriented development again, rural connections again, more collaboration between localities again. So you all suggested these, or your own opinions about FAMPO, and these things kept coming up. So that's great.
If I can just add, these slides are just giving you a quick and dirty summary, because we only closed the survey on Friday, and we had to quickly, so Colleen and I worked over the weekend just to get you a quick snapshot of what the results were. Some of these, like these lists, we'll dig into a little bit more and show you where the majority of the comments cluster around. So we will refine this a little further, but it's a really good quick snapshot of what.
And you'll receive this presentation in your follow-up email. But again, like Ian said, it will be refined. And if we can't build our way out of a congestion crisis, what are we going to do? Well, some of the alternatives that you all came up with was car sharing carpools, open easy pass lanes, traffic calming incentives to use public transit, teleworking, increased VRE capacity. So there's lots of good ones in here. Congestion pricing.
Who did that?
More than just, some one person's section.
That's right.
And then when gas taxes no longer cover transportation costs, where should FAMPO find funding? The most that everyone said was vehicle miles traveled, tax that, and tax the weight of the vehicle. And we have tolls in here, of course, and stop expensive road expansion. These are keywords and phrases that you all chose, not us. A different sales tax altogether, stop funding unnecessary projects, but then incentivize public transit. Yeah, these are all good stuff. And then these are just a little snippet of some of the comments from the actual survey. So how do we integrate land use with transportation infrastructure? Someone said loosen density and zoning regulations and eliminate parking minimums everywhere. Another person said pedestrian-only areas. Build land use around the travel pattern. That would be transit-oriented development. And, just et cetera. Again, you'll get this afterwards. This is actually one that was ranked by the survey itself. So you all ranked these options. Which of the following is most important for transportation planning? Our biggest first choice was multimodal transportation options down here. Then we have transportation safety, congestion mitigation, transportation for all, accessibility, and addressing environmental concerns.
I said to the TAC, we're not big on environmental concerns in our committee.
But then transportation safety was the second biggest choice, or for second place, so these are very interesting for us. And then what would you like to see more of in 50 years? Again, you all ranked these. The biggest was transit-oriented development for first place, then reduced congestion and safer roads and sidewalks, and so on. I just want to point out that safer roads and sidewalks was not chosen at all for last choice. So we definitely want more safer roads and sidewalks, right? And that completes the findings of the survey. Again, these will be refined and the presentation will be sent out. Thanks to everybody who completed the survey. I really appreciate y'all's input. Those of you who did, you know. Obviously, you don't care about food. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
I really want to credit Coley and Ian for a great job on that survey, and really great job, all done in-house.
Any questions about that? For those of you who follow Stafford County, they briefed last night I'm not sure what you would call it, but it's a quality of life survey that they sent out and got several thousand respondents, and not surprisingly, the areas in which the county was below the average all dealt with traffic and time spent on roads and so on. So obviously it's a great concern to people in Stafford County. People are generally happy with quality of life and location and all the other things, except they couldn't get anywhere. So it's available on their website if you want to take a look. It was briefed in the evening session of the Board of Supervisors meeting yesterday. It was pretty interesting. Okay. VDOT report a problem.
Yes, I thought I'd keep an old business standing item in case, as Mr. Swan indicated last time, if you all have put in a complaint with the VDOT report a problem, and if they've not been addressed, to bring it here and we follow up with VDOT staff. So we'll just kind of keep that there in case we do have any, non-responses.
So
Okay.
in terms of things that they're not responding to, VDOT's not responding to?
Right. We sent the link out to the VDOT report a problem website, and with the concern last meeting with all of the fallen trees still down on the shoulders and so forth. So encourage folks to go ahead and put that complaint in, and then you do get a work order generated. Mm-hmm. And if VDOT didn't reply, bring it here and we could follow up with staff.
Okay.
With VDOT staff.
I'm hearing the same feedback in my office, but they are responding. They're just, it's not a timely enough fashion for some.
Yeah, but I've found when you do generate that work order request, you do get a reply back. Mm-hmm. And that also, among all the myriad tasks they have, someone's accountable when that work order is set. Yeah. So I've been very impressed with this. The other thing that's available on the Report a Problem website is Report a Compliment. So one of the choices is if you see them doing a good job, but so rarely would you compliment VDOT. So I want to encourage people when you see them, maybe reply to your concern or just a compliment in general. That site is also available to compliment work well done.
Yes. Speaking of compliments, also in the Stafford County, they talked about removal of all the trees and blowdown from the great January catastrophe. And I think I saw an estimate, the initial cubic yard estimate was about 400,000. Well, they're well over 1 million, and they think they've got another 500,000 to go. And they've had as many as 18 contractors working, of which they fired about 12 for poor performance. So they're working on this. It's a laborious process, but they're trying to get it done and done right, and VDOT is heavily involved in that. So if you like your road, send them a compliment. If you don't, let them know that there's still some work to do. Okay.
So you said 18 contractors, 12 have been fired? Is that?
Let go was the word I saw for non-performance.
Sure.
They were doing things like, instead of hauling away limbs, they were throwing them over guardrails and things like that. So unfortunately, when you get a storm like that, it's like everybody with a truck comes running, and the ones that appear to have survived are the tandem trucks where they have the large crane and all the stuff in. So they're still working on it, but it exceeded their estimate by a factor of 3 or 4. So it was a heck of a cleanup, and it's still ongoing. They estimate at the end of June, it's done. Okay, any questions about report of problem? Okay, item number 8, elections. Just to review what the bylaws state about elections. Bylaws state that successive appointments are allowed if a person is not successively elected. They should rotate among the jurisdictions to provide rotation of officers. So there was a lot of confusion as to what that exactly said. That's what the bylaws do say. One of our members proposed an amendment to the bylaws. He has since withdrawn that amendment, and so we're still operating under the existing bylaws. And so I'm going to open up the floor for nominations for president or chairman of CTAC.
Just to clarify, going back to that discussion on the rotation, it was not clear. Is that right, that we are supposed to be rotating through as FAMPO does?
If an officer is not successively elected, then it should rotate.
So like in this position, you can be elected, but the next chair after you at any point can't be from Stafford.
No, that's not true.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure it says that. I would interpret it as that way.
That was the intent.
Oh, so it doesn't necessarily say that? Because I thought that was part of the rotation. It's just
I think if I were to read it, if I was elected again, it would then have to, and I chose not to run again, or were not reelected, then it should rotate to somebody from a different jurisdiction. That's why I would interpret it.
That's what I said.
How does FAMPO do it?
So, FAMPO is full committee.
Full committee, yeah.
The policy committee is very rigid. The reason for that is to keep, I'm going to use the word peace between the jurisdictions. It's very rigid, and it rotates every year, this time of the year, to one of the other jurisdictions, and they've set a rotation order, so you always know which jurisdiction is next. And because FAMPO technically only consists of 3 jurisdictions, Stafford, Spotsylvania, and the city of Fredericksburg, it's regarded as the next person's turn, but the bylaws state specifically that it must rotate. The CTAC, similarly, it states specifically that it must rotate between those 3 jurisdictions. Although other jurisdictions participate, only those 3 get to be chair and vice chair and second vice chair. This committee, it used to say that, but an amendment was brought about a couple of years back, partly because we had a time period, I believe Dave was here before me, so he would know that I think there was a time period where nobody wanted to be the chair, and it was difficult to find the chair, and so an amendment was brought about to allow the chair to serve another year while we scrambled to look for a chair for this committee because nobody wanted to be there. Am I right, Dave?
Right.
I think that's what happened. So there was an amendment to change that automatic rotation, which was built into this committee to allow for a second year for that reason, because it was difficult to find somebody 1 year to be the chair.
Is it defined on this rotation as similar to the full committee what it was previously before that amendment?
So this committee was exactly the same as the policy committee before the amendment.
Okay.
It might be helpful. So a year ago, we were desperately, it was Spotsylvania's turn, really. And so that would be the person who would run against the incumbent, quite frankly. So it would have been Spotsylvania and Stafford would not have been able to nominate somebody. It would have been between. We couldn't get anybody at Spotsylvania. Couldn't get anybody.
I came in at that time.
Right. We could. So we said, okay, we've got to open it up. And so the rotation gets messed up. So it's difficult. But the succession thing multiple times is not a problem. It was just kind of keeping that balance and that rotation going as much as possible.
Okay.
Ideally, the vice chair would then be, front runner for the next rotation if he did it properly, but it doesn't have to work that way.
Thank you.
We had 3 or 4 members from Spotsylvania, and none of them.
Yeah, exactly.
None of them wanted.
Right, it was.
Wanted to run, so.
Yeah, no, there was a small number of reps, yeah, exactly.
Does anybody have any, good?
If you go back enough years, it was just a custom, a tradition to do the rotation. If it didn't work out, it didn't work out, it was kind of laid back. So for what that's worth, a little background. It worked fine then, and I didn't see any need to do all these amendments to kind of make it more rigid. And I'd be perfectly happy to go back and make it a custom again.
Now, I've been told there's been more than one person who served successive terms, and I'll just throw that out for information. So, does anybody have any questions on the topic of bylaws, successions, custom, tradition, anything like that? Okay, I'll open up the floor for nominations for the position of chair.
No one wants to do it. I'll nominate Hank for,
Chairman.
for chair.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Before we get into discussion, is there anybody else who would like to run for chair? All right, hearing no other nominations, I'll close the nominations and call for the vote. All those in favor of me being a chairman for a second year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, thank you. Any opposed? Okay, I appreciate your efforts in this. And I just want to make something clear, because there's been a lot of misinformation. There is no attempt to establish a dynasty. This is a committee of volunteers, and you don't have a staff. You get support from FAMPO to the degree they can support, but for us to get things done, it's a function of your ability to dedicate time. And I realize a lot of you have a lot of things going on. People have done that. I appreciate you stepping forward and trying to tackle the problem, and many of you others have done that. Please convey that to the people that you deal with. We don't have any authority. The only authority we have is moral authority and the bully pulpit. We don't have money, we don't have priorities, we don't have anything else other than getting a sensing for the kinds of solutions that our populations would like to see, and then helping the process understand those solutions and embrace them. That's my philosophical comment for tonight. Anybody have any questions? Thank you for your vote of support. I suspect I'm going to have all sorts of blowback from whatever, but may not be here for the next meeting, but we'll see. Okay, I'll open up the floor for nominations for vice chair.
I'll make a motion to nominate Matthew Rowe.
Is there a second for Matt Rowe? Okay. I was asked to nominate Jacob Clay for vice chair. Jacob, as you know, is from Spotsylvania. Is there a second for Jacob Clay?
I'll second.
Okay, there's a second for him. Any other nominations? Okay, so since we have more than one nomination, I'd like to call on the nominees to talk a little bit about why they'd like to serve in the position. Jacob's not here, but I think he provided something to Becky, and so she will speak on his behalf. Matt, if you would, please.
Oh, okay. Well, I've been on this for a couple years now. I'm happy that we're meeting in person because it's really good for facilitating our discussion right now. But one of the things that I'm really interested in is trying to come up with solutions. I appreciate what Hank's done so far in trying to accommodate that. You'll actually see one of the things that I've whipped together for the Plantation Drive extension. So I'd be just happy to continue on in that role.
Okay. Any other comments on Matt's behalf? Okay, if you would speak then for Jacob Clay.
Jacob provided this bio for himself. Jacob Clay was born in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and raised in Spotsylvania for most of his life. He wasted no time and enlisted into the U.S. Marines at the ripe old age of 17, with parental consent and served 6 consecutive years on active duty orders as an aircraft mechanic. During that time, Jacob was handpicked and selected to serve at the Executive Flight Detachment Presidential Helicopter Squadron in Quantico, Virginia, working directly for the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and Joseph R. Biden as one of the presidential helicopter mechanics. After this time, Jacob re-enlisted into the Marine Corps Reserve component, where he currently serves in the infantry as an anti-tank missileman. In closing, Jacob is an all-American boy trying to do right by his country by defending the Constitution of the United States and the freedoms we enjoy, both as an ardent warrior and orator.
Yes, sir.
Could I ask 2 questions of both candidates as we have? The answer is, how long have they lived in the area and how long have they been involved with CTAC?
I've been on CTAC for 2 years, and I've lived in the FAMPO region since 2004.
And Jacob was born in Fredericksburg City in 1998 and raised in Spotsylvania County for most of his life as a third-generation Virginian, graduating early from, I think, Spotsylvania High School in 2016.
And I think he was appointed to CTAC last fall.
Yeah, well, it was January.
January. Any other questions of either
As a
candidate?
Spotsylvania representative.
Right.
What county are you?
Fredericksburg.
No, it
Okay, any other questions? Any other discussion? Okay, nominations are closed. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of, I'm sorry?
In the past, if there was just one candidate, we would take a vote up or down. But if there were more than one candidate, we'd, make a little ballot on a scrap of paper and pass them up to the secretary.
Have no problems with that?
That's okay. That's in past practice.
Okay. Let me hand out some papers.
I have a little post-it.
All right. Perfect.
Yeah.
And then you just keep them as council and make sure only delegates, official members of the committee.
Pat. Oh, yes.
You're allergic to. Do you have any members not visitors?
I have a
Oh, no, that's okay, because they have an allergy.
Yes, Rodney Thompson.
I'm more allergic to her.
Okay. Hello.
But only members.
around
Pat.
Being our message, we just said it, we put someone that has access to county.
Okay.
Writing the name down, is that what we're doing? Writing the names?
I would recommend you write the person's name down, either Matt Rowe, Jacob Clay,
Okay, that's not hard to tell.
yeah, on your
ROWE.
Post-it note. Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
I've gotten all of them. I've gotten ROW, ROE.
Spelling doesn't count. I was dumb, I should have written it on the other side, because the sticky side, and then they all stick together.
Oh, my God, last year.
I asked Rodney.
Rodney just put up
He hasn't, no.
Rodney just put
I asked him.
Rodney just messaged.
Oh, okay. I got it. I'll write it. Oh, thank you.
Is there a way for us to vote if we're on the phone?
Yeah.
Because it's very unfair to have.
What was that question?
Yeah.
She wants to know how to vote on.
Oh.
On the phone.
Oh, and this is Jerron Hayes, I bet?
It is.
Oh, draw.
Great. And so, Ron is just on the phone and not online, right?
I figured, John, this is Hank, can you hear me?
This way nobody.
I can.
I'd like to talk to you later about you helping facilitate a meeting with the appropriate planners out at your neck of the woods. Is that in the realm of the dual?
Yep, I was gonna send you a note, tell you I'd be happy to go with you, and I'm happy to set it up.
Great, okay, we'll talk later, thank you.
Okay.
Jerron Hayes.
If the votes are in one comment, I think they're.
So we just finished the election. Ma'am, we need to get your vote as well as an official member of the committee. How would you be comfortable doing that?
I can do it verbally.
All right, Carly, what
If
did you
y'all are
say?
cool.
Write down whatever she said.
I'm happy, I'd like to go for Matt.
You want to vote for Matt? Okay, Carly, if you could just write
Yes,
that on
please.
another. Thank you very much, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Give that to Becky, and Becky can just
All right, so,
Get mine.
So have we gotten everybody's vote? Everybody present, have you voted? Okay, people online,
You can stand here with
Yes.
me.
have either voted by instant messenger, which I haven't got a clue, or verbally?
This is Rodney Thomas, and yes, I voted.
Yes,
Okay, thank
Rodney,
you.
I received your comment. I wrote it down for you.
so while they're counting it, so, Chair, while they're counting, so I found, and I think if Dave Swan would here, he would attest, that 2 years in this job is a good number. I mean, 1 year is good, and then 2 years, it seems helpful. So I think, you know, the fact that you're doing it for 2 years is good. It worked good with Dave. I think it works good for me as well. So, I mean, I'm saying that now that the vote is over. I wouldn't say. I didn't put the vote on it. I'm just saying, that was my observation, period.
I would think 2 years is about right, since bourbon is becoming increasingly difficult to find.
Is it?
Yeah, bourbon.
That'll get better, don't worry about it. Yeah, it goes right down Venus Distillery around the corner.
Try finding Irish twist.
Don't attack me, but good bourbon.
Bourbon on Kentucky.
Pardon me?
Can only come from Kentucky.
Can't
get too far around.
You can't get it from.
He's drinking Jack.
I'm in Tennessee.
When records, yeah.
I know, I spent a lot of time in Kentucky. Bourbon only. Personal opinion.
That's okay.
Vodka can come from anywhere.
Okay.
I tell you, that's getting hard to find too. Not that I spend all my time looking for
Sanitarian with their alcohol.
There had been three suggested rates.
Hanging chads.
Relevant question.
11, yep, that's right. Okay, great.
This equals just 2
All right, you ready for the count?
Okay,
All right, Matt Rowe is elected vice chair, 11 votes. Mr. Clay, 2 votes and 1 abstention.
okay,
Matt Rowe is the vice chair.
congratulations.
Thank you all very much.
Congratulations to both candidates.
Hold me accountable.
Next year.
All right, you're next on the agenda.
Oh, Matt.
Oh, yeah, all right.
Okay, there you go.
This one will be awkward now. Who has the laser pointer?
2 years.
Mr. Grant, I think we might have a plug for you there. We're gonna take that one.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Dave, is there a plug in that black thing that is unused?
There's lots of, yes,
All
there's
right.
several plugs in there.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Lifeline there.
So one of the things that I brought up at the last meeting was, we were talking about different corridors that we're trying to establish and, maybe look at a few different things that, one of the things I like about CTAC is that we do talk about things that might not necessarily get brought up by our elected officials or our transportation planners, a little bit out of the box thinking. So that's one of the reasons why I want to bring this particular corridor. This is a copy of, from the Stafford County Comprehensive Plan. And you see here the dotted lines of potential new corridors that they have thought about establishing at one time or the other. You see that we have the Eastern Bypass or the Brea Church Parkway. This is an older one that already shows Centerport Parkway right here. And then you see this one up here. This is a possible extension where it connects Centerport to Mine Road. Can we go to the next slide? I brought up this at the last meeting. Particularly the issue that we have right now is that we have exit 136, Centerport Parkway off of 95. An interchange that cannot be used by anybody off of Warrenton Road right here, because we have an issue where there's no way to get from to this interchange right here, from over here without having to cross over 95 on Enon or come up some other way to get to this interchange to possibly alleviate congestion down at exit 133. So my idea was to do kind of what they were talking about on the Stafford Comprehensive Plan, which was an extension of Centerport Parkway right here down to Enon Road. One of the issues that you have here is that if you're familiar, Enon meets at Truslow in a three-way stop sign.
Yeah.
So, and at rush hour, there definitely is congestion there. To continue on Plantation Drive, you would have to go and take a left turn. Or if you want to go this way, you have to wait for traffic on Truslow to take a right turn. So there are a couple extra movements here. So I was wondering, is there a way that you could do something where Plantation continues on straight to Centerport, so it at least gets rid of a couple of movements. This red line I put in here was my quick and dirty line, just to kind of show like what could you do. As you see, I cut through some houses there because I was trying to get it done before the meeting started. If we go to the next slide, I have something a little bit more refined. So this one, now again, I'm not a transportation engineer. I don't know exactly what kind of grading would necessarily need to be done or what retention ponds would have to be installed here to comply with the Chesapeake Bay Act. But I did want to show a 4-lane facility from that curve on Centerport Parkway coming down. You can kind of see the parcel lines from Stafford GIS that we have here, cutting through, not affecting anyone's residence. What I did here was I gave a little bit of buffer. I think, do we have the zoomed in versions of this? Right, okay. I had 12-foot lane, 16-foot median. I gave 10-foot shoulders, and then 20-foot of buffer space to either side for any potential sidewalks or mixed-use paths. So I just want to kind of give the maximal space that could possibly be needed for something like this. Coming down through mostly unoccupied spaces, and if we go to the next slide, this is going to be the area where it gets a little bit busier. We have this cemetery right here at the corner of Holt's Chapel and Enon Road, right at the curve by the water tank. The current comprehensive plan would have Enon Road go up through here. You probably need some realignment to avoid the cemetery. My path has it going far enough away from this home, hopefully, past the cemetery, not affecting it, and coming down, threading the needle between a couple of homes right here. Again, this is just something that's just kind of back of the napkin. It's, you know, I did it in GIS, but it's still ultimately a back of the napkin kind of thing here because there's so much more that would have to be discussed. But I think having the ability to connect everything down there off of Warrenton Road, in and around England Run, and give them at least another option for getting on the 95 by having this option going up there. And also for the new developments that are going to be coming into the north, giving them the ability to come down to the south to do their business and do their shopping down here. Ultimately, trying to alleviate congestion and maybe with a little bit of economic development. So that's just something that I just wanted to throw out there. And the idea here, even though this is a fully inside Stafford kind of project, hopefully having this sort of traffic alleviation for a project like this could spill over, and if you have fewer people that are trying to use exit 133 to get on, that could have sort of a domino effect for everybody that's coming up from Fredericksburg and Spotsylvania. Again, I don't have a traffic study in my pocket to show me that I'm right, it's just a feeling. So that's what I've got.
What I would like you all to do is drill them on questions, because Matt's going to go with me to the July Planning Commission, and there won't be a meeting in July, if I understand correctly.
Correct.
Planning Commission?
So the Stafford County Planning Commission. And the intent is, the original intent was to brief them on the outer connector concept, but here's an opportunity if you are comfortable with what he's proposing, and obviously there's a lot of detail yet to be worked out, as in the outer connector, but here's an opportunity for him to go forward with a proposal with a CTAC imprimatur attached to it, which I believe carries a little bit better weight than just Joe Smith coming off the street and saying, you know, I think we ought to have a superhighway go here, because I think we're building some cachet in terms of reputation. So if you have some questions for Matt, please. All right, Matt, start fielding them.
Yes. So my first question, and I just want to say for the record that I love this, mostly because I live just off Plantation. But
that's That's an acceptable, that's okay.
And I work at Colonial Court, so this makes my commute about. But, so I will do anything you want. But,
Meeting, all right, that's good.
but, yes, something like that. The traffic lights. Question there is traffic lights. Is this something where you envision no traffic lights, it's just a straight bypass?
I don't necessarily have the answers to something like that. When I was kind of thinking about this a little bit, the idea here would be, a limited access, surface level parkway. So think of, something that doesn't necessarily have driveway access, just so that we can kind of maintain the safety of a road like this.
If it's a parkway, you're gonna need a stoplight. They won't build a bridge, I would imagine.
Right, yeah, no, I'm not talking about the whole Chapel Road interchange or anything like that. But there are things that you could do, like, could you do a roundabout? Would something like that actually work there? It's possible. For access, for Hull Chapel Road or trying to connect this to Enon, you could do something, on either side of the intersection that's sort of like a Michigan left, if you're, familiar with that, where you pass the intersection, do a U-turn to do your left turn. Though that is a little bit more complicated, studies show that that is safer. So that's not necessarily safe.
In response to your question, there are a lot of variables. Is it 2-lane or 4-lane? Is it limited access, roundabout? And those are the smart guys. The thing on this, and I'll let you draw your own conclusions, it has not been proposed before as an alternative routing. And I know it gets you off a plantation, and I know you're thrilled. But it has merit. So, and I don't want to speak for anybody, but go ahead and drill them, because obviously it just,
ultimately, it's a variation of something that's in the comprehensive plan right now. Not in Stafford's comprehensive plan. It's not exactly what they say. What they would have is come down to Enon, and then you have to do the little.
Well, the reason I brought up the traffic light is because maybe that's a selling point. Because if you have that as a traffic light at intersection, like you said, there's that three-way stop, and that gets congested around rush hour. So if you have the traffic light there, that could potentially ease congestion.
Well, and this would also ease congestion here, because you would have fewer vehicles trying to make this particular movement at this intersection. So you just won't have as many cars there.
Well, and you'd also have those who would go, up.
Right.
Just to give you a little tip, the thing that you were talking about just now is called an R-cut. So that's the new terminology that VDOT is using. A through cut or an R-cut, or what they call creative ways of having an intersection without a traffic light.
Right.
The reason why traffic lights are not the greatest idea is because they actually add to the congestion.
Right.
You actually want less traffic lights. If you remember the letter we wrote to the Secretary for Transportation, you can blame me for one of the items on that letter, and that is the one saying we want less traffic lights on US 1, not more. And the reason we want less is simple. Take out the traffic lights, you don't have to stop. So you want the free flow, you want quicker moving, you get rid of traffic lights, but then you still need access, so you create better ways. Like VDOT has called them
Innovative
intersections. So the one is an R-cut where you have to turn back around the thing. The other one is a through cut where you break through. They're different innovative intersections. So the thing to say in your technical meeting is we would recommend this route with as few traffic lights as we can get away with. And if necessary, put an R-cut or a through cut or some other innovative intersection in order to keep the traffic flowing, because that's what you want. And some people think I'm only pro-transit and I'm anti-cars, and I'm not. I drive a nice car parked in the parking lot. I would just give you those tips in terms of language to use when you present your case, and the same goes for your.
We'll do some cramming at the last minute.
So my suggestion is, while you want to make this sell to the public, you say less traffic lights, not more. And where we absolutely have to have them, we use some of these other innovative intersections so that we can keep the traffic flowing.
Now, on that note, if you're bored but you want some very interesting viewing, go look at the Stafford Board of Supervisors televised session last night, the discussion about Lidl. a grocery store that was going to be put on Garrisonville Road that was defeated by a vote of 6-1, primarily for some of the reasons that we're hearing right now. Primarily traffic, slowing congestion, taking 6 seconds more at this intersection, 20 seconds more at that. So this is in the psyche, and it's worth taking a look at for the education if you get a chance on a rainy afternoon.
All right, so I got a bunch for you, Matt. So I'm gonna quiz the new vice chair. The one, are you like just a GIS map guy?
Yeah, I work for Stafford GIS.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the comprehensive plan, right, is the proposal to do this route versus the other one at Enon or parallel?
No, so in the what I have here is not specifically in the comprehensive plan.
Right.
They do have the connection at, so if you're familiar with Centerport Parkway.
We can,
You gotta make the left or the right.
Well, they have, it's perpendicular with 95 until you get to that right curve to go up to the new Amazon and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So they do have an extension from the south, from that right curve. The only difference is they have it coming down here.
Where do they put it at? Like 5 years, 10 years? What's the comprehensive plan cover?
Like 5 years.
It was updated last year.
Potentially as an option in the next 5 years, but you're saying this would be the route you'd prefer versus the other one?
This is what I'm proposing. I can tell you that at the 2011 comprehensive plan, it was in there, and we're in 2022, and still nothing's.
This version?
it's a.
Not this version, but
Hey, Matt?
what they were talking about.
Hey, Matt?
This.
Let me, Coley, if you could go back to the first slide there.
Oh, yeah.
It's,
Larger one?
those dash lines keep on going back till we get to this. There you go.
Yeah.
All those dash lines, if you look at the legend, are concept roads. So the concept road, it doesn't mean there's any time frame. So a dash line means it's just preserving a corridor
That's 2021 one.
for development.
Potential.
And so and Matt, you can use your cursor to show them that Berea Parkway extension there.
This here.
Yeah, so there have been, the people at Able Lake have voiced concern about the Berea Parkway extension. I think the Enon Road extension is kind of, I don't want to say a best kept secret, but there is published opposition from the Able Lake folks on the Berea Parkway. So Matt's alternative, Matt's alternative could be an alternative to those two. It would serve the same purpose as Berea Church Park.
Yeah, it's just tougher because this area is starting to get a little bit more dense, and then you're going to get more public opposition.
Next one.
Mr. Chairman, just one of Becky's points was really important, and that is that there is no timeline on any line on a map in a county plan until the first amount of cash is committed to that project. So whether that cash comes through FAMPO, or whether it comes through
mega funding or whatever,
county, or whether it's federal money or state money, until such time as the first amount of cash is put in there and what they call a unique project code is allocated to the project by VDOT, the project is just an idea. Even if it's in your county plan, it remains an idea until the first amount of cash is raised and allocated to that project. We then give it a UPC code, and then it becomes a viable project. Until then, it's an idea, even if it's in the county.
Well, the question is did they do the math on the traffic data that it would alleviate already? And it sounds like if they know that 6 seconds is going to be the delay at Garrisonville for a Lidl, that they've probably got a lot of daggone data that'll tell them, like, what happens here, potentially. So you might
The
look for that.
concept roads are not studied at all. They're really just a line on the map to preserve.
Right, but you've got Centerport Parkway that's built, you've got Enon that's built, you know the delays at the three-way stop down there, so you could extrapolate from there using one of these models that FAMPO's looked at or whatever, if you want, but you have the time to do that in a month and probably on your own, but you could figure that out. Somebody's got data somewhere where you can make an estimate. Because I think when you're in front of a committee or a board of supervisors, if you can throw math at them, they'll think, oh wait, this person might actually have some clue about what they're talking about, and make them go look further.
So the staff at Stafford County could provide you with that data.
They might.
However, they're understaffed at the moment. They've got less planners than they should have.
Sure.
So
I can attest to that.
The only other thing is your red dash there, where is it, there's that white line that kind of cuts up through the middle part, so go down with follow your red line there, Matt.
Yeah.
Go up, right there. So right where your white is, what is that?
That's Hull Chapel Road. So you can kind of ignore the red line here. This is just what I did last month, and I just went
You're the only, like, who owns all the parcels?
Well, right, so that's why I'm saying ignore the red line here. This is just to draw a red line. And then what I have now has something that avoids the housing a lot better. Not to say that.
That land's owned somewhere, right? It's not.
Right, I mean, it is someone's parcels, but it's all vacant parcels for this part up here. And then.
Is it preserved because of some reason?
Not that I know of. Well, for instance, this is generally the same coming right here, except it just moves a little bit over. So they already, you know, kind of put a pin in that to say, like, this is a potential corridor already.
I'll vote for it.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to kind of single this idea out, just because their comprehensive plan has something similar. So it's to say that there could be some receptiveness because it is in the same family as something that they've already put in their comprehensive plan.
And you have a pretty solid reason for going with yours as opposed to theirs, which is.
I'm trying to get rid of this.
Again, that was the data, if you could get the traffic data existing.
And it may exist, we just don't know. Jeff Harvey has been very cooperative, but there's a lot in his plate. And so he wants to get a sensing for what does he work on because what is most important. But they may already have the data. Now, as long as you have that up there, there's, just so you're all aware, on the eastern connector that has been proposed, it would come off of this Centerport Parkway loop. This is that dotted line that heads out, and it's a dotted line in the comp plan that would then connect just south of Potomac Creek and hook into 218. And then the roads from where it hooks in would be improved all the way out into King George. So that plays there too. Now,
actually, can we go back to the first slide? On there? Because it's I mean, it's not exactly the same, but this is similar to what you had proposed.
Now, let me go back one, and I'm going to speak in a apolitical sense right now. So everyone is aware that development I was talking about, George Washington is now Stafford Springs. 3,400 homes of various size, whether they're apartments, townhomes, single family, that would start Raymond Church Road, which is right about here.
It would be about up here.
Well, it starts here, but then goes all the way up to Courthouse. The majority of those houses would be in the southern portion of that property, unfortunately in the flight path of Stafford Airport, which is a problem in of itself. But I can only imagine what that volume of traffic will do to Route 1, 95, Centerport Parkway, and so on. And it's been rumored that the builder is going to proffer connecting Mine Road and Courthouse Road down to Centerport Parkway.
It's going to take them 15 years to fill up 3,400 homes.
You would be surprised.
I would be surprised, but it's still, they're going to think on a longer timeline. So as long as you're thinking that way, that'll play. You should bring that up because they have to start planning for it now.
Well, and I'll tell you where it is. This thing is with the way Stafford does this, they give it to the respective commissioner and planning commission member who are in that district, which is Darrell English, and I don't know offhand who the Hartwood representative on the planning commission. So they have it, they're looking at it. I don't know what the timeline is, you can make your own. But that's another variable in all of this. And so if we're going to take advantage of mega funding and maybe even roll in what you're talking about, because it really does enhance east-west mobility and gets people off of the 95 Route 1 corridor, that's something, assuming they've got, everything's in alignment, the gods are with us and so on, could be included.
Where's the east-west mobility plan that FAMPO's doing? Aren't we doing one?
They're doing, now, that ties into, east-west mobility is facilitating your transit east and west if you're south of the Rappahannock or if you're north of the Rappahannock. The critical component is getting you across the Rappahannock. So that's why, the outer connector was proposed. Are there any other questions? Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, so I'm really neutral on this, but I mean, if you had to pick one, would that Centerport Berea Church Road be more productive for getting traffic off and then heading east and west rather than this particular one?
Heavy impacts to existing houses. And very heavy impact.
The only issue I had with that is that Plantation, while it's still only a 2-lane road with
wide shoulders, yeah.
It's got wide shoulders, it could, I believe it has enough right-of-way available for an expansion in the future if necessary. And if you, down here, it is 4 lanes right here, so we would be talking about possible improvements along this area. The only issue that's up with this one is that once you get to Berea Church Road, if you've been on Berea Church, it is narrow, it's got a lot of houses on it, and communities coming off of it, and there would have to be some work done. Station at least is a little bit more adaptable for expansion rather than Berea Church.
All right, well, help me out here. So where is we're also talking about the northeast connector. Where was that? I thought that was Berea Church Road, no?
Yeah, so this one that's shown here goes to Berea Church Road. The one that was in the Stafford plan was more.
No, the one we talked about earlier, which we've talked about.
Oh, you mean the outer
northeast
connector?
yeah.
That's further out on 17. This would enable you to get to that.
It goes even further out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What this does is it gets you off of the choke point where 17-1 and 95 meet, where they have some pretty exciting issues there. It allows you, if you don't need that, you can go further to the west and then pick up that crossing on the western side, and then the dotted line to the east. If you need to go east or southeast, you can avoid again the 95 Route 1 corridor and go all the way over. Now, something to think about in the future is Plantation Drive with those wide shoulders seems to lend itself to a dedicated transit line of some type, whether it's a bus or if they ultimately do light rail or something like that. They've got the space, they've got the population density, and that may be something that could be a better alternative than putting major road down the middle of Plantation Drive. So something to think about in the future. Any other questions for Matt? Go ahead.
Yeah, could you tell me how this project gets us any closer to our goals of automobile independence?
I don't know if it's going to necessarily do that. The only thing that I want to include on this particular project was to at least show, in terms of the buffer space that I provided, some sort of mixed-use path so that we can have some sort of bicycle option for people that would be interested in that.
Would you say this project is subsidizing sprawl then?
I don't know. To me, right now, the way that I had envisioned it was something without driveways that were coming off of this. So, like, for instance, it would have the connection with Trucklow Road and then one for Whole Chapel just to maintain the connection to that neighborhood there, and then up at Centerport where it connects. So not necessarily putting anything on the road, so at least not creating sprawl along that particular corridor.
Just at the end of it.
Well, what I'm trying to do here is to at least show something to help local folks here in this area to at least have a different option of getting north rather than going down to 133 and going that way.
So helping the local folks get out that way doesn't encourage the out-of-state folks to come in that way?
It's possible. There's a give and take for everything. So
There's gonna be more people, one way or the other, Rupert, they gotta have somewhere to go.
Ultimately, the solution, it goes in part to what Ian was talking about at the last meeting, you have to have zoning policies that reinforce how you want this all to develop. And all of you have been watching local government for the last 20, 30 years. It's not a dictatorship. The solution you start at the beginning is never the solution you wind up with because politicians change. All we can do, though, is facilitate some solutions for where we have now and then strongly advocate for policies that may encourage more intelligent transportation.
So while we're trying to change our policies towards walkable, transit-oriented development, while we're doing that, we're going to sink all of our money into subsidizing sprawl. Is that what you're saying?
No, but I'm telling you, you're not going to do away with the automobile anytime soon.
To get to where you wanna get to, Rupert, with less cars and congestion pricing, you're gonna have to build more roads and put more cars on it first.
Sorry.
It's just gonna happen that way.
Not true.
It's gonna go.
All right, one at a time. Go ahead, Ian.
I'm one of those planners that you're all talking about. It's asking the right question, but you should ask this question even more of the other proposal. Because that is going to spur urban sprawl way more than this little road. This little road is connecting existing communities that are already there. You heard about the how many hundred homes in Culpeper and Orange County? So they are now wanting to build all those homes, which is sprawl. It's far out of an urban center. And that's their motivation for wanting this additional road. So the road and the sprawl are connected together, right? So it's going to be far more urban sprawl, the other options, than this one. Every time you build a road, though, you make it quicker and easier for people to travel. And the other fact most people don't know is it's been hidden in very technical studies that were done since the 1970s.
The 7 years? Is that the one you're talking about?
No. It's a different metric. Schaefer, I think, first came up with it in 78 or 82. And it's been subsequently confirmed around the world. And that is this. It seems that people inherently want to travel for a certain amount of time every week. Listen to this carefully though, not distance, not distance, time. Yeah. So, whether they travel on a train, or a bus, or a car, or a bicycle, it's not the distance that they want to travel on aggregate, it's the time. So, what we found is, if you increase the options, they will travel further in the same 2 hours. Okay? The more options you provide, in other words, the more roads you build, or the more train lines you build, or whatever, increases your reach. I can get further in the 2 hours. If it's hard to travel, I travel still for 2 hours, but in congestion and traffic for a shorter distance, because I just can't get there faster. So that's an interesting observation, because what it means is, we are never, to your point, we are never going to stop people, and I think your point, we're never going to stop people traveling, ever. Because there's this global, inherent human desire to travel the same amount of time every week. Now, when you put obstacles in place, the human beings shift. Guess what happened in COVID? It confirmed exactly that. People stopped traveling in peak hour to work. But guess what they did?
Went to Home Depot.
They went to Home Depot. So they traveled the same number of hours every week during COVID, almost. Not quite, but almost. They just didn't go to the office. They went to the coffee shop, they went to the library, they went to the cinema, they went to Home Depot.
I've never seen lawns look so good.
So that's why we didn't solve congestion during COVID, is because people still traveled, they just didn't go to the office. So the thing you can be sure about is human beings are going to travel a certain amount of minutes every day, well, on average, but rather take it over a week, because some days you stay home and you don't travel, right? But we have an itch to travel, but not distance. We have an itch to travel for a certain amount of time. So when you consider Mr. Parley's issue of sprawl, he is right that the further out you build stuff, the further out, the more they'll go, because you're making it quicker for them to get there, so they'll go out even further. And so that is why building roads doesn't really, in the long term, solve congestion, because people are going to travel more the more you provide. So, urban sprawl and roads do go together. I'm not advocating for 1 minute that you stop building roads, but I am advocating that you think carefully about the impact of what you do, which is what you say. You're quite right, you should think about the impact of what you're doing. And I do advocate for more transit, but you can't put transit far out, because it's uneconomical, which is why Caroline are going to struggle. Sorry, I'm doing a whole lot of things in one conversation. But Caroline are going to struggle to deal with your problem, because what you don't know is that transit operators in the United States get dinged on their funding from the feds if they have too few people on a bus.
Right.
I don't know whether you know this.
Yeah.
So they get funding on a...
Yeah, people use it in care.
Yeah, they have to demonstrate cost effectiveness.
Person per revenue hour.
Take an Uber.
So you can't
Yeah, I agree.
everywhere. We found that in the FAMPO
It's an
survey last year. 1,000 people said to us,
It's an issue.
half of them said, we want transit here. Where do they live? In the dense parts of the region.
$10.
The people who live out in the more rural parts, they actually wrote in that survey, we don't want transit. But that actually is good, because we can put the transit where people want it, but it's also the place where you can get the federal funding, because you can get more people per bus. And that's how the federal funding works. So that was a lot, I'm sorry to tell you the whole lot, but people are going to travel. Urban sprawl is not good, and the reason for it is I'll oversimplify it, it's more complex than this, but the reason for it is simple, it's expensive. And it's expensive, and if I can use a simple pipe as an example, if you have to lay a pipe for water, sewer, whatever the hell it is, electricity.
You used this one last time, but go ahead.
Very quickly. The number of people who are contributing their tax to that pipe is higher if it's dense. If it's rural, there are few people per mile of pipe. So it becomes real expensive to give you the piping out in the rural part of the county, which is why Richard is correct. The cost of urban sprawl is high, and the people who live out there are not paying the total cost of what they're causing the taxpayer, which is you. So if I go build my house far out in the middle of nowhere where there isn't a house,
$5 a gallon.
I'm costing the rest of you more tax money to service my water, my sewer, my electrical, and my roadways, because less people use the road per hour, per day, per whatever. So urban sprawl is not good, but you can't put transit far out in the middle of nowhere. So Rupert is right. When you build roads far out there, it's going to facilitate these new developments, which I'd love to live in if I could afford it. But they're costing the rest of us because we got to subsidize their pipe. I'm done.
Right, but you can drive it with the zoning.
We can still approach our mission from a holistic standpoint, recommend solutions appropriate to the situation. You got a comment?
What is sprawl? Because I've never heard the term before.
Rupert.
Is taking undeveloped land and continuing to push.
Low-dead
He says,
houses.
what is
Yeah.
sprawl, right?
Building Orion homes every 2 miles.
That's the
In other words, putting homes where they were not previously, so that the boundaries of an area are continually expanding and the need to provide
Yeah.
services expand out to the limits of that area.
So take the
It's a person
farms and the
answer.
forests and turn them into houses with big yards. So there's one house every, so it's not putting houses close together, it's putting them far apart where there used to be farms or forests. That's oversimplified.
Is that good?
I think that's great.
Any other questions for Matt?
I got one.
Please.
On this thing, on this map, down there on the left on the legend, it has adopted transportation corridors. Do you know what that is?
You see everything's a little bit color coordinated right here. Like, for instance, they have 6-lane highway upgrade in that sort of pinkish color, and they've denoted that for Route 1 going up through Stafford County. So each one has a different level of service that they're possibly proposing.
Right, where they want to direct most of the traffic, yeah.
So it's just
So does Stafford have a prioritized list of projects that they want to pursue?
Yeah.
I know that because it's on here, it is some level of priority, but I don't know about the necessarily ranking of those.
I think the priority really devolves to how much money do they have and how many can they get done.
Yes, that's contained in the long-range
So
transportation.
our plan, the FAMPO long-range transportation plan, has a thing called the constrained long-range plan at the back, which you find on the website. That list represents the projects that each of our counties and the city have said, we want these before 2050. So those are the ones which they're asking FAMPO to find money for between now and 2050. So if they're not asking us for money, they probably
not
don't.
funds, but find money for it.
Find.
Right, yeah.
And so year by year, and we're going to allocate another $10 or $11 million in March, which we're now asking the jurisdictions to start designing their projects. So maybe it'll be your project that will get funding, but we have to allocate another, and it's probably the biggest amount in one go that we're going to allocate. It's about 10 more.
Don't tell me.
So here's what I'd like the CTAC to approve. I'd like to throw out a motion that you'll vote on, that Matt is authorized to go to the July Planning Commission meeting with this proposal as a CTAC recommended alternative or modification to the Stafford Comprehensive Plan.
Second.
That's a motion?
No, that's something to that effect. If you like it, second it. If you don't, modify it. But that's what I'd like them to do, is to go out there and say, I'm just not Joe Citizen. I've come from some people who are knowledgeable and have seriously thought about this. Now, we don't have all the answers, but normally, these planning efforts start with recommendations, and this just pushes us up a little higher on the list of recommendations.
Right, and this, again, this is just something
It's a concept.
Right, yeah, I'm not saying this is the best idea.
Yeah, and he doesn't have the exact plot either, but it's an alternative to what you saw along Enon Road, which I personally don't think works. And they will ultimately, obviously, look at that. If they have traffic data, they'll take a look, and they might say, you know, this kind of looks good, or they'll say, don't ever invite him back again. Sir?
The guy let me in.
So, I mean, so it's admittedly, we don't know the answers, we don't have any statistics, we've drawn a map with a magic marker on a GIS, and we want us to endorse that, or just say, hey, please look at this? It's two way different things.
For examination, because, I mean,
It's two way different things to say we endorse it when it's just, compared to what?
Okay.
The other option?
Word it, because, you know, start out, we don't have staff. We're looking at ideas of how do you want to word it? Do you have I'm not putting on.
For them to consider it, you know, here's something that's an idea to consider, but to say it's an endorsement by CTAC, I would vote against.
Well, I mean, we can't endorse the exactly of the line, obviously, because we don't have the data, but we would like them to consider it for integration in the comp plan. How's that?
You say consider, sure. Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, there's already one a couple hundred feet just to the right. I mean, or a quarter of a mile to the right. But they've already kind of considered the idea anyway. But
actually, this is different. And
I got it. So but consider, absolutely.
Roll it out. Let me hear the language.
This is my idea, and I don't even want to say endorse. So yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Give us a proposal.
You can go up to Stafford anytime you want in the public comment.
Sure you can.
You don't need our endorsement.
I wouldn't.
Well, just to say like, hey, CTAC is cool with me.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, you're like, hey, I'm a member of CTAC of the Fredericksburg City, which might not hold a lot of sway in Stafford, but whatever.
Yeah.
But you're the vice chair, and you can say all of that. You don't need our endorsement. And the fact that we want to or don't want to endorse it.
Yeah.
Well, all right, let me jump in on that just for a second. If I go somewhere and talk to people, it's because you all have said, all right, continue on this. I'm not going to represent myself as the CTAC chair on something that you're not aware of. I can always go and do it as a private citizen, which is kind of the predicament Matt has. Now, he can always go there as a private citizen. All I'm saying is, if that CTAC has looked at this and requests that you consider this as a modification or words to that effect, whatever makes you comfortable, it just has a little bit more force. Just like you're going to go down as a CTAC representative and do some fact-finding. Not to intimidate anybody, but it just, if you say, hey, I'm from CTAC and I'd like to learn a little bit about this issue, you'll probably get listened to more than if you go down and say, I'm Tamara Banks, assuming they don't know who you are. That's just the way things work.
I would also suggest, though, if you went to Stafford specifically and you were appointed by Stafford to be on the CTAC, and you came forward and said, I'm one of your appointed representatives on CTAC, and we took a look at this, and I would like to suggest that one of your appointed representatives from CTAC to consider this.
And not only that, but we talked about it at one of the CTAC meetings, and they all thought it was great, or whatever.
I mean, but
I don't want to swim uphill, but I've seen the way local governments work, and titles help. You know, I'm sorry.
No, or you could get, what is CTAC?
I'm sorry?
Or you could go to one of the organizations, maybe like, what is CTAC?
They're learning. They are learning. They're starting to learn. We're advertising ourselves.
Well, no, I mean, to Hank's behalf here and his idea, it's to get CTAC a little bit more recognition and notice than in the past. I've only been here 4 years, but Dave.
That's a good point.
Rupert, I mean, you guys,
concur.
I think we've laid low. Hank's been a little more proactive.
Yep.
We've all been fairly supportive of that.
Yep.
I think this is just one of those more pointed efforts to where, you know, if the motion is, you know, that the CTAC committee supports Matt Rowe's presentation to the Stafford Planning Commission or Board of Supervisors that there might be an alternative to the existing comprehensive plan.
That's good too.
They should consider it. I don't see the problem.
Hearing no motion, I'd like to suggest we move on to item number 9.
I would like to make a motion.
There's a motion on the floor that needs to not be seconded.
All right, is there a motion?
Well, in regards to that motion?
In regards to Matt's presentation
I'll make a motion.
let's be,
And I'll be careful with my words.
okay.
I move that CTAC votes to allow Matt Rowe, in his capacity as vice chair of CTAC, to present to Stafford County the concept as a possible alternative to the CLRP as planned.
A second.
Any other discussion?
Not the
Can I
CLRP.
just make one thing, not the CLRP, the county comprehensive plan.
County comprehensive plan, sorry.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second discussion.
I would like to amend that motion that, whenever he makes a presentation, if this passes, that it's made clear that CTAC was not unanimous in supporting this.
And that's fine. I don't think there are many things we're unanimous about, but a majority of CTAC. Would you amend your motion?
Should the motion pass, vote?
By majority vote, okay.
And the-
Okay?
And the first was made by Mr. Kwetnowski and Tamara Banks, second.
Please.
It bothers me a little bit that you're basically drawing a line on the map and you want to take this to them and suggest that it's better than what they have. And I think you need more than that, or else our credibility, their question is going to be, why do you think this is better?
The good news is that he works for Stafford GIS guys who are gonna make him draw it anyway.
I think the answer is, we're suggesting it as an alternative. Wasn't that true? Not the preferred solution, but as an alternative. Please look at this as some other different thing.
Why do we
I have a
think that?
question for Matt. Are you taking that to them to suggest that it's better than what they're doing, or is it an alternative?
I would say an alternative. I would never say better, because again, I'm not a transportation planner.
Okay.
For you, don't you gonna, because you're in Stafford GIS and you're gonna. Yeah, but I don't write their policy though. Okay.
Okay, so if you would just restate the motion as you presented it, and if there's any other discussion.
Let's see if I can remember the exact wording.
Yeah.
The motion is that Matt Rowe presents to the Stafford
Planning Commission.
that this concept, as, in the hope that they consider it as an alternative as to the particular current plan. And that in so doing, he reflects the vote of CTAC in his presentation.
An alternative to be considered as an addition to their comprehensive plan.
You happy with that? Yeah, I think that's good. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the motion that we've, Wickard, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No. No.
3 noes. Okay, any abstentions? One abstention? Okay, the motion passes. Okay, let's go to public comment, item number 9. Are there any members of the public present or online who have questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll close that public comment session. Any correspondence?
None other than to disseminate the links from Jane Lee's prior letter.
Okay. Any staff reports from any of our focus groups? Okay, traffic or congestion mitigation, public safety, okay.
I do have an issue. Mr. Kwetnowski, would you like to share the question you asked me last time about?
So I, as I mentioned earlier, I work for the coach and I work with Supervisor Tom, and he asked me for more information, or for any information we might have on mass transit options in Stafford County. He was very vague, I'll be upfront about that. But this is for the purpose of the Student Government Day, which the Stafford County Board of Supervisors conducts every year, or with the local schools. I remember those details correctly. If I'm wrong, I apologize. And so he was looking for details so that it could be a topic for discussion in the Student Government Day. What is the question specifically?
Mass transit.
Mass transit.
What are the options for mass transit in Stafford?
Yeah.
Well, in the Stafford people are pretty comments, and I'll give you the basic if you want. FAMPO is conducting, looking at putting a new
Transit hub?
transit hub in Stafford, in the Stafford downtown. Unfortunately, Stafford owns land in the north of that downtown, but the need is all in the south of that downtown, so it's not going to be perfectly situated, but anyway, we're spending money designing for that. Red Transit, about to begin in the next month, the transit strategic plan, I don't know what the start date is, but that plan is to redesign the Fred network so that it aligns more with where people live now and where they work now, not where they lived and worked 20 years ago. So that plan is going to be, it's a $300,000 consultant type project to get that design. Remember, it's not just spending it, we're not the driver, we're the students themselves.
Put a train plan together for Sanford.
No, to design the freight transit network. So it's called a network redesign, where you look at your transit system now and you say, well, why isn't this working, and how could we design it so it works better? In changing the route, and changing the frequency of the buses, and changing all this. So that's the second thing. I think we're on the third thing. VRE is going to bi-directional be increasing their service frequency on the main train line to the Stafford train stations. They're upgrading both of the train stations in Stafford with longer platforms so that they can take longer trains. Their ridership has jumped in the last 3 months since the President's Trade Union all come back to work. If you're a federal worker, well, you've seen it in the ridership. It's suddenly jumped and everybody's back on the train. And then the $4 billion plan that the Virginia government signed with CTAC is purchasing the eastern half of the CTAC right away, including the one track that exists now, and the state is going to cobble together over the next number of years a third track, which will go through Stafford, so that we're going to be separating freight and passenger trains, because freight trains are slow, and the passenger trains are very fast. So you've got to try to separate them, otherwise it's likely bottleneck on the highway. And that involves building something not in our region, but the long bridge over the Potomac River. They're going to have 4 tracks coming out of DC from Union Station into Virginia, and then it'll eventually drop down to 3 tracks. And FAMPO just signed a letter to the Federal Secretary of Transportation to endorse the funding for that, and asking them to please give Virginia the money so that we can build that. And FAMPO's East-West study is also looking at proposals to get people from the new transit hub in Stafford downtown to those train stations, because of course we're about the last mile, so we're working with Fred to try and do that. And we've looked also even at bicycle paths. It's not a large number of people, but it's one less car on the road, so we're designing 2 bicycle paths, one to go down to the train station. VDOT is designing a bicycle and pedestrian path to the Leland Road station, which we don't need to do because they've already done it. And they're currently, I think, under construction already, or about to start. So all of those things are in Stafford. And then finally, we're trying to hint at OmniRide that they bring their bus further south, because it's only stopped in one place in the FAMPO region, and that's in the very north of Stafford. So we're suggesting that when we get this new transit center going in Stafford, that they bring their bus to the Stafford downtown, but also even further south into Pennsylvania, so that we can get more people on the bus. And remember, every person on the bus is a person that's not in a car in front of you. Every person that's on a train is a guy that's not in a car in front of you. Every person on a bicycle is a guy that's not in a car in front of you.
It's a target. Every person on a bicycle in front of you is a target.
I'm going to ban you from speaking in So the point of this is that those are the things that are either FAMPO is pushing, or the county is investigating, or VRE is already working with and supporting what they already. We just funded DWRC just Leland, so that doesn't have to pay. So so you know the ANCOL program that some people complain about? It's raising a lot of money that gets funneled back to DWRC, and they have allocated it to the four train station, three train station upgrades, which DRE is doing, so that the county doesn't have to pay. So that the ANCOL that operates on that office next door to me is generating millions of dollars, which is $4 million now, on the ANCOL line, which is on the train station upgrade. So
30-second commercial for one of our focus groups. Embry Mill and Plantation Drive cry out for some kind of mass transit. Initially, buses on a greater frequency, down the road Plantation Drive, maybe even Embry Mill would lend themselves to light rail or something like that. But you have the population density there. These are the kinds of things that we can be exploring. No, as a separate one. Well, no, I mean, just Embry Mill to get the people to a commuter line. You know, you could run through there.
Downtown at the courthouse, is that what's happening downtown?
No,
Yeah.
there's two.
Well,
There's two of them.
the main one is, if you kind of picture it, it's Courthouse Road on the north and Hospital Center Boulevard on the south. It's kind of football shaped, everything in between those.
The other downtown Stafford is the 17 acres of woods by the fire station, which they have sent out as an RFP to a developer.
New fire station right there on the I-95.
Yeah, the one that's right on Courthouse Road by 95. If you
That's
would
still
mind,
within that.
send me an email and I'll send you a copy of the slide presentation.
Yeah.
Okay. So, any other
What I'll
comments?
do, just as a follow-up, when I do the minutes, I'll, maybe have a separate document that clearly summarizes all the facts that Ian Hollis just put together all in one place. It won't be in the minutes, but it'll be something you can provide to Student Government Day that really gives a great overview that's all in one document.
And then, okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, if there's no other staff reports, can I have a motion to adjourn? Took too long.
We just did.
Yeah, we went. I'll remember to turn it in. Okay. Yeah, so we sort of talked about that. All right. Any other comments? Motion to adjourn, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thanks very much.
Congratulations.